what are those gifts that we are given in abundance? If we hear Jesus teaching and sharing, these are the things that are going to call us, that are going to well up inside of us in caring for the poor and those in need, for blessing and welcoming the children, for reaching out to the prisoner, the captive. These are the gifts that are going to inspire in teaching, in prophecy, in ministry. And the question is, are we going to use those talents? Are we going to live that abundance in caring for those in need? And that's where I think that Parker Palmer invites us into that conversation as individuals and as a community. To recognize, what are the pieces, the elements that are within us, that are being called forth to respond to particular situations in our lives as individuals and as a community? How are we called to let our life speak as those who are the servants who have been entrusted with gifts? Are we called to be teachers in a new way today? Both for the children as well as for those who are older or farther along on their faith journey. Are we called to reach out to widows, to children, to those who are living in poverty? As mentioned in adult education, if you've been reading the papers recently, you are well aware of the significant disparity here in our own county, in Hennepin County, of those with the haves and those that are the have-nots, or those that are simply struggling to get by. How are we called to be a witness to that, to use our talents, our skills, to reach out, to make a difference? It may start with the food shelf, this incredible 30-plus year witness of Calvary, but it's morphing into something more. In walking with people as they learn skills that will benefit them in caring for themselves, allowing them to let their lives speak in a new way. Are we called to care for those with the talents that we have, those that are incarcerated or working to make their way back into community? South Minneapolis has a significant population of men and women who have been incarcerated, who are trying to find their way back into society and into life. This last week in the mail, we received a preemptive letter from a man who is at Stillwater, saying, in another year and a half, I am going to be back in community and out of prison. I'm trying to find ways that I might prepare myself for that. I'm trying to find communities that will support me in transition, so that I'm not left on my own, not knowing what to do, or falling back into old habits or old ways of being. Are we as a community called to be about restorative justice? That the captives, those who have been incarcerated, might know a new way of freedom and a new way of living. We are called to live as children of the light and to use our gifts to let our lives speak. How is that speaking to you today? What talents have you been entrusted with? And has it been easier to dig a hole and hide them? To think that someone else might do something, might live it out? gets me about this parable also is that even this one who is given the 1 talent, who digs the hole, the master says, well, why didn't you just entrust it to the banks? The piece that I struggle with is that in the Jewish system, banking or usury with collecting interest was prohibited. So here you have this master saying, well, why didn't you break the law? Why didn't you do something outside of the one way of looking at the world to bring back, to make something happen? Are we willing to test the boundaries? Not just the boundaries of church, but the traditional way of doing things. Are we willing to break down models of what has been, or of old tradition, that there might be new life for all? So I invite you into the question, not the answer, but how? How this day are we going to let our life speak as good, faithful, trustworthy servants of one who is going on a journey, but is not leaving us alone or leaving us idle, but giving us a task, a witness? How will your life